Alright guys, sorry about the delay. We're finally into the last round of Archenemy and Game 6, Warriors of Chaos versus Warriors of Chaos, up against Ryan Simister, an opponent that I'd played against once before at Fields of Blood 2009, the first round. That was High Elves versus Lizardmen at the time, and I lost. Didn't play very well at all. And this being quite an important game here, because I've done well throughout the tournament, and I really need to secure a decent win here, because there's no repercussions of facing a player that's also done well in the round following, because there is no next round. Yeah, Ryan has got an army which has a big unit of knights with characters loaded up into it, and everything else really fairly insignificant compared to that. He does have one big block of 20 Siege Warriors on foot, but that's about it. Now, critically, this game features the Watchtower scenario, and in the middle of the battlefield you can see there's a Watchtower, and I have actually occupied it. Here's my army deployed to the right-hand side of the field with just my unit of 12 Chaos Warriors of Helbediers occupying the tower. Now, we did actually decide to use random terrain features in this game, and the tower actually had a feature itself. In fact, the tower, you know, in hindsight, we shouldn't have really had any upgrades for the tower, but the actual watchtower itself grants +1 to hit for units garrisoning the tower. And the unit inside the tower is also stubborn. So you can see that it was a big deal that, you know, Warriors of Chaos versus Warriors of Chaos, one of us actually got the tower, and it was me. So looking at this photo, it looks like I've got the game in the bag already. One unit of warriors inside the tower, and that unit is not really going to go anywhere unless he actually assaults it so many times he kills all the guys, which is possible. Next photo, it shows that what I'm up against here is a block of 20 Chaos Warriors on foot in the background. Unfortunately, you guys can't see because of the blurriness of the photos. Again, you know, just trying to get as decent picture I can, but it's quite tough with the lighting. You can see the little card underneath the warriors just sort of talking about garrisoning the building and getting +1 to hit, but man, really lucked out to get that sort of situation. And next photo shows you his deployment towards the left-hand side of the table, my left, and he's got a big unit of Chaos Knights. He's got Marauders on foot, I believe, with Marker Corn and great weapons. He's got a Chaos Sorcerer in there as well, level 4, with Lore of Shadow. I quite like Lore of Shadow, really, because it allows you to deal with big creatures and things and low initiative, but I've already talked about that in a previous clip. Next image shows you him assaulting the tower in his first turn with the unit of 20 Chaos Warriors, and a big combat ensues, and his dice are a little bit luckier than mine, and I lose combat. Now at this point, I realize what a fatal mistake I've actually made, and that is actually not keeping the BSB within 12 inches of the tower, and I just can't believe that I did that. And inevitably what happened is I rolled higher than a 8 for the leadership. In fact, I needed a 9 or less thanks to the general being within 12 inches, but the BSB not. And unluckily failing that check, being removed from the tower and giving him the tower bonus. So what can I say? Just absolutely flabbergasted that happened. Going to the next photo, he's now occupying the tower, and suddenly it looks like it's an unwinnable game from my position. And 8th is a bit funny sometimes, where you can have a whole game based around one little thing like that. I mean, the Watchtower really is quite a good mission to mean that you know, you get rid of gunline armies that just can't fight in close combat at all. I mean, in that sort of situation, the gunline army will lose if it has to assault a building, and obviously the building is, you know, gives cover to your unit anyway. But you probably shouldn't play the Watchtower mission with little upgrades like that. And Warriors of Chaos versus Warriors of Chaos makes the Watchtower pretty critical. Going to the next image, I'm trying to maneuver my way into a situation where I can actually fight him to my advantage. My Chaos Warriors that have been beaten back have rallied. I've turned the Chaos Knights around to head around the left flank instead of swishing around and being redirected by his cavalry and his mortar cavalry, that is, and dogs. He's actually got 2 units of mortar cav and 1 unit of dogs. I'm going to actually put my mortar cavalry back in the list after this tournament because they really do a good job of redirecting, and they can actually fight, especially against other armies redirecting troops. So, and plus that Vanguard really is useful as well. The ability to just keep on moving after you rally and so forth. So just a great idea. I've got all 4 of my characters packed into that big unit of Marauders at this point, so that's really my only chance of winning, is to get that unit into combat and hopefully win the fights. And next image, I've actually put my hounds in front of his little choke point there between the trees and the building, and just closing in on it. He's got some redirections in the way at this stage, but I can use my chosen to clear them away and hopefully get into a situation where I can pull off a decent charge. But things are looking really deadlocked at this point. It's turning into a bit of a silly game. Next image shows you around the left. He's got his Marauders and Warshrine behind the building. He hasn't got any chosen at this point, but my chosen aren't really in a good position to combat his troops. I've actually got the Warshrine buffing the big unit of Marauders instead of the chosen at this point as well, just because that's where all my characters are, and they've got +1 attack. Can you believe it? +1 attack for everything in that big Marauder unit, so that's definitely going to hurt whatever it hits, and it's going to be a question of whether that Marauder unit can beat his unit of Knights. Next photo, he's got his cavern in the way of my big unit, so I've just cleaned that up. And it doesn't really matter if I overrun, I can just reform later on. So I think anyway, the Knight's moving around the back just to get into a position where I can flank charge his Knights if there's a big combat later on, hopefully. Next photo again, this time I've got my Chaos Warriors moving up and chasing his, I'm not sure if I'm chasing anything, but just getting in the way really, so that he can't get his Mortar Cavalry and Chaos Knights around quick enough. If he charges with his Mortal Cavalry, they'll die. If he moves out of the way, that gives me another turn to try and move around and deal with his Chaos Knights over in the background. Next image, that's exactly what's happened. I've reformed my troops here. I've got my Chaos Warriors up ahead as a sacrifice. Really, I'm going to be down on points at the end of this, but I've got to try and get a better position, otherwise I'll lose a lot more than just that unit. And he's going to be able to charge that with his big unit of Chaos Knights, and if he decides to overrun into my Marauders, there's going to be a big fight, and my Knights are going to flank him, and that should be victory for me. So he's a bit of a smart player. He's not really going to do that. He's probably just going to attack the Chaos Knights, Chaos Warriors on foot, and reform. Next photo shows you exactly that, so he has done that. I've moved out of my big unit with my Chaos Sorcerer, and I've just left buffs on where I can. He's actually moved his Chaos Marauders on horseback in front of my Knights, so that gets rid of the Knights. So the Knights will have to overrun them after they've destroyed them. And I'm trying to dispel his buffs as they come into play, but really no damage done by magic at this point. I don't have Comet. I really wish I'd had Comet in this game. It would have been really useful. But at this point, just using most of my power dice to dispel his stuff. Next image, sorry, really blurry photo. The Knights have wiped out the Marauders down the bottom left and swung around his flank and just trying to get out of the charge arc for his Knights. Everything else of mine is just moving around, and I've moved my characters over to the Chosen at the top, just given the fact there's not going to be a combat between his big Knight unit and my unit of Marauders at this point. Just no sense in it for either of us, and my guys are blocked by the building where they were in the previous image. Next photo, this is the final turn of the game. I've actually attacked his Marauders with my Chosen and all of the characters, and all the combat characters anyway. Well, actually no, only the 2 cavalry characters. He's moved in right next to me, but this is the last turn, so he can't charge me. And the Warshrine gets double 6 in the Chosen, which means they scream into the Marauders, hack most of them down, but don't actually wipe them out, so no points there. And that is it. That's the end of the tournament, end of the game. Ryan managed to win this one by a small margin, which was really gut-wrenching for me because I had a great position at the start of the game. I really could have beaten him by the opposite margin. And what actually happened is that Ryan went on to place 3rd in the tournament. I placed 7th. And since we're on similar battle points, if I'd actually not made that mistake with my BSB, I would have come 3rd, and he probably would have come 7th. But that's how it was. It's quite tight at the top. The 3 guys that came 1st, 2nd, and 3rd were also the 3 guys that beat me, and were my only 3 losses of the tournament. All of my other losses, the wins were major wins. All of my losses were minor wins, minor losses. So that's it. Next tournament coming up in December, the Masters. Because I've qualified for the rankings in New Zealand as one of the better players in the country, I've been invited down to Wellington to compete in it. So I've already booked my flights. I'll be taking the camera, and see you guys there. You won't see you guys there, but you guys can see how that goes on YouTube. Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.